Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton. We're here to talk about the physicality of the Texas practices. Gerry, you have heard behind the scenes that this may be as physical of a fall camp as we've had under Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, so I was talking to a source late last week. That's what I was told. I was told that this was the most physical fall camp that the Texas Longhorns have had under Steve Sarkisian. And Bobby, that makes sense for a couple of key reasons, which we're going to get into here in the show. But I wanted to lay out what those key reasons are, and then we're going to talk about them. Last year, I would say when the Texas staff left Dallas after the Cotton Bowl, they would have to say that Ohio State probably won the physicality battle of that game. And who is Texas playing in 5 days? Ohio State and Columbus. And I think Steve Sarkisian and this staff know they have to match or win the physicality battle against Ohio State and Columbus to walk out with a W. And I think that's been what's behind a lot of this fall camp push.
You look at it, Gerry, Texas is not necessarily heavier on the offensive line this year either. For example, Trevor Goosby, starting left tackle, comes in at 312. Well, Kelvin Banks was 320 last year. NATO is a little bit heavier than Hayden Conner. He's at 325 compared to 320 for Hayden Conner. Cole Hudson, a little bit lighter than Jake Majors a year ago. DJ Campbell is down, just getting more conditioned himself. And then Brandon Baker's 308 compared to Cam Williams is 335. However, we believe this offensive line has a chance to be more physical than last year's offensive line. And perhaps that is what Steve Sarkisian is trying to draw out of them. You mentioned the toughness and the physicality they participated with this fall or during fall camp. I heard the same thing. And one of the things that got me is they're going full on 2s and 3s as well. And Steve Sarkisian actually called out somebody today by name that we had heard had been doing good work and moved over to left guard. And that's Connor Stroh, who is a mountain of a guy. You know, he goes 340, 350. He's been playing some first string at left guard when NATO kicks out to left tackle. Steve Sarkisian had some nice things to say about him here.
Connor Stroh, I thought he's had a really nice training camp. Connor Robertson is another guy who's had a really good training camp. I think Jaden Chapman has really come on the last 2.5 weeks. So those 3 guys on top of those other 5, I feel very comfortable with.
So interesting because he's getting into 6, 7, and 8 deep on the offensive front, Gerry.
Yeah, for sure. And look, Connor Stroh, that is his strength, would be a physical guy that can lean on you in the run game. And that's really what we're talking about, I think, from a physicality standpoint, if this offensive line is going to be more physical this year. But, you know, when the fall camp we're talking about the whole thing.
Yes.
Right? Set up. But on the offensive line, look, Texas, in theory, let's see how it goes starting Saturday, should be more physical in the run game for 2 reasons. One, NATO is more of the road grader, downhill type of guy in the run game. I think Cole Hudson may be a little better mover of people in the run game versus Jake Majors. These guys are in NFL camps. I'm not saying anything negative about them. It's just a change year to year. And then DJ Campbell is a lighter, more experienced guy. They'll have even more quickness to go with his power. I think there's some thought there. And then you have Connor Stroh's come on and Connor Robertson, who is in year 4 in the program now, and has played well when he's had his opportunities. I think that thought on the offensive line is guard, center, guard. This could be a more physical or mover of people in the run game. And the second part of that would be if they implement more gap and power schemes, because that's going to invite physicality in the run game more with the interior of the offensive line and the offensive line in general.
We mentioned that it's been a physical practice or a physical fall camp. Gerry also mentioned it's not just the offensive line. We're starting there because of what we heard about Connor Stroh and some others today, including NATO, who is playing, quote unquote, to the echo of the whistle these days, which has caused some interesting things in fall camp. But Gerry, the defensive line is new, relatively speaking. Gone are Alfred Collins, Jermaine Lollet, Bill Norton, Vernon Broughton, Baron Sorrell. Those guys brought a level of physicality with them. And so Sark really tried to extract that from the defensive front in this fall camp. And physicality is one way to go about it.
And, PK kind of gave the hint on where this was going in his press conference before fall camp, said, we have more depth on the interior defensive line this year. Well, if you have more depth, what do you lean to in those situations? We can be more physical up front in practices. We're not as concerned with somebody going down and missing a few practices, right? And I think that in getting those guys ready for Kenny Baker, it's not – if this schedule was reversed, maybe we're having a different discussion. But the difference here is, when the staff looked at the schedule, say, we don't have San Jose State or UTEP before Ohio State. Then we're going right into the battle right away. You have to have a physical fall camp when you're going right into the battle at Ohio State to start the season. There's no warm-up game. So then when you have more depth, also depth at linebacker. When you just have more depth where Sark has built this program, I think he sees that, look, we can withstand some of the nagging injuries more. We can be as physical as we've ever been in a fall camp, and that's going to prepare us for a very physical game against the defending national champ.
You mentioned those positions. It's not just those. It is Jack injuries at tight end. He's a little bit different than Gunnar Helm, right? Jordan Washington, a little bit bigger than and Spencer Shannon, both a little bit bigger than Juan Davis a year ago. And then obviously at running back, Jerry, we got a more stout Trey Wisner with another year of armor built up, but you're also bringing back Cedric Baxter, who from a physicality standpoint, Texas really missed in 2024, in my opinion. You look all across the board, and it should be a more physical team than in 2024, even though there were 12 draft picks on that squad.
Yeah, and let's add this about the offense in general. I totally agree. Texas led the college football last year in passes 5 yards or less. That doesn't mean you're not playing physical football. But what it means is there's more things on the perimeter. There's more blocking on the edges. With Arch Manning and part of this change, what have we heard? Arch Manning's under center more. Well, the only way that's going to work is if you're a more physical football team up front. That is the only way that's going to work if he's under center, because you want to have the back to the defense play action game. So that's predicated on a run game. That's predicated on being successful in a run game. If you can't run the ball effectively, all that doesn't matter anymore. So the way this offense is built and the depth they've built in the program leads you to a much more physical fall camp, in my opinion, especially considering your opponent at the beginning of the season.
Let's add this one too. The return of Derek Williams should add another element of physicality to the defense. He was certainly in there. And now you can play him alongside of Jelani McDonald, who came in and was physical immediately. The two of those guys never really got a chance to play together much last year because McDonald came on only after Williams got injured. And so the reality of it is let's go back to what you said at the Cotton Bowl, which not the Cotton Bowl, but the bowl game against Ohio State.
National semifinal.
Yeah, I was talking to Coach Shipley and Coach Irwin earlier today, and Coach Irwin basically said, "Hey, look, they out physicaled us a little bit in that game when we were down on that, goal to go. They got the better of us." And I think that Sark may have left that game and penciled that around and said, "Hey, that's exactly what we have to get after this offseason. If we're going to be better, we have to circle that and improve it." And apparently that's what he's done in this offseason work.
Nothing makes you have a more physical fall camp than exiting the playoffs like Texas did. Ohio State, drive, run with quarterback, run downhill with Judkins to score a touchdown to go ahead. Then you go all the way back down and you can't do the same thing. And it ends in a turnover. And it ends in a loss. Nothing will make a staff circle the wagon and say, "We know how we lost this game."
Yeah. Well,
that scenario, how it played out at the end.
I want to say this. It's not just been physical camp from what we've heard. It's also been a tough camp.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 2 days he put guys out there in 100-degree heat at 3:00 in the afternoon. You don't do that if you want to, be nice to your players. You're doing that to create some resolve and some toughness out of them.
Yeah.
And so we'll see if what Sark has kind of tried to create this fall camp happens, but it's certainly been something that they've been true to from the very beginning of it. All right, before we let you go and talk about one other item, I want to say thank you to Dr. Brett Robin, the former Longhorn running back. He knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacements. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic, give Dr. Robin a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000. Get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. Hook 'em from Dr. Brett Robin. Jerry, I wanted to ask you one final piece here before we get going. Do you think this attention to physicality will actually show up on Saturday in the Horseshoe?
One of the things I'm watching for is, look, Trevor Goosby, Sark said, should be good to go Saturday. What's that going to look like? Does he have a really wrapped up, covered claw type of thing or on his left hand? Well, that's going to limit his punch physicality. He's going to have to win on athleticism in that scenario. That's one of the things I'm watching. Is Brandon Baker game's first start ever going to be more physical than Bo Atkinson, who's been playing college football for 4 years? Is that going to happen? I think defensively, I think Texas will bring it to Ohio State. And I'm not saying shut them out. I'm not saying shut down the offense. These are really good players on both sides. I do think defensively, Texas will answer any physicality Ohio State brings. I think there's the depth. I think there's the experience. I just love Trey Moore at linebacker is a very physical player, right? LaFau, Anthony Hill. I mean, those are very physical.
Brad Spence is very, very.
Brad Spence. I mean, you can go up and down the line. Colton Vossick, very physical football player, right? You just got to stay healthy. Interior D line. What have we talked about? Texas may be better against the run on the interior this year. Well, you don't do that unless you're physical. Cole Brevard, Alex January, Murad Watson was a freshman All-American. You're not doing that if you're soft. Hero Canoe practiced against these guys. Who knows this offensive line better than Hero Canoe at Ohio State, right? So I think Texas is going to absolutely answer. And at the safeties you mentioned, Jelani McDonald, Derek Williams, now with that downhill physicality, you have to communicate really well so you don't blow coverages. But Jalen Gilbo at corner, physical football player. I mean, so I like where Texas is at from a physicality and depth of physicality on defense. I think the offensive line is what you watch in this game. And I don't have any doubts that both guards, Nato and DJ Campbell, are going to be extremely physical players in this game. What are the tackles going to be in the run game? Are they going to be more athletic guys than physical? That's what's going to be interesting to me in this game because Kenyatta Jackson and Bo Atkinson are going to be older, physical football players more than they are twitched up edge rushers. So Texas is going to have to answer that bell. Like Ohio State presented that problem last year, Bobby, because JT Tuamayo, I can't say his name, and Jack Sawyer were big physical edge players. And those guys, they weren't twitched up guys. They were big physical guys, and they had the 2 draft picks inside. But I think Texas is going to answer the bell physically. I think they will be as physical as Ohio State is in this game. The question is, are they going to walk out of there as the most physical team? We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think they can win unless they really show up.
I agree.
In the category. I think that's the one thing that even with all of the athleticism you may have with Ohio State's receiver core, even with an Arch Manning at quarterback for Texas, I think it's going to come down to more of what Coach Shipley and Coach Irwin talked about, the lines of scrimmage, an LOS game.
Yep.
So despite all these stars. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Talking Ball, brought to you by Dr. Brett Robin. Thank you, Gerry Hamilton. Thank you, Matt Hutchison, our producer behind the scenes. Rod Babers, CJ Vogel, and Coach Shipley are back tonight, 7 o'clock with the live stream. For now, I'm Bobby Burton. Hook 'em horns.